Speaking of beefs,
yeah. I mean, we got a whole bunch of beef, right?
speaking of beefs, super
Nicki,
pause, but we got a lot of beef on the way.
Nicki and Latto.
Nicki and Latto. Barbs, come on.
I'm like a half Barb
I wonder if any Barbs
because I'm not like a diehard Nicki fan, but I have been a fan since 2010.
Barbs be giving me my subs
Yeah.
on my other channel.
I mean, I'm team Nicki with a lot of this stuff. Like, I get a lot of people's perspective thinking that she's like the common denominator, but I hate that whole common denominator argument because I could be the common denominator in a lot of people's stories. Like, if you look at my life, it's like, dang, Mal lost this friend, this friend, this friend, this friend. But I don't think people realize that something that comes with being like the most successful person or just but I'm saying highly successful, that stuff happens. And like, that could be also like a factor. Like, I'm not saying that I'm the perfect person, that like everybody's just hating on me. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I hate that whole that Nicki's a common denominator. It's like, no, the common denominator here could be her success.
You being Mal Minaj is crazy.
I am a Mal Minaj. No, but I'm saying like people would be like, oh, it's a red flag when a girl loses a lot of friends. I'm like, how's it a red flag? Like, like people don't realize you could come across a lot. It's just like it sucks. That's like when you grow up with people and then you just become successful, people switch up on you. Like that's not a red flag. I didn't do nothing wrong.
Here's what I'll say. I will admit that my opinions on Nicki are a little bit skewed and biased because I find men are catty too. We should acknowledge that men are catty too. But I always disagree with like the taking things to the internet and just the way Nicki generally goes about, you know, her issues or beefs or discrepancies just because of how I handle certain things. So I would like people to handle things in what I would consider to be a more mature way. Text me, whatever. I don't like taking things to the internet and tweeting stuff like that.
But what about the fact that Nicki didn't come to the internet first with this? Latto did.
Yeah, I'm saying in general, right?
And also Nicki does make tweets that could be, all right, it's a little shady. Like I hate when people throw stones behind their hand, but a lot of stuff that Latto thought were subtweets were literally not subtweets. So it's just paranoia.
Right.
Which I've dealt with that.
I'm saying in general, like a history of like, you know, going on the internet, doing Queen Radio, all that kind of stuff. My personal preference is not to do those things, but I do understand if you took it to the internet, then I'm a address it on the internet kind of mentality.
Or if you took it to the public, I'm gonna address the public. Like with the Queen Radio, a lot of times that was after something happened, like after the shoe was thrown. Right. Nicki wasn't really saying that before that. As I can recall, but it was like she only said stuff after the fact. Right. Or after Cardi went on interviews saying stuff about her, she responded in an interview.
Now, here's what I will say. I give Nicki the same, and I don't know what word to use here. I was gonna immediately say grace. Or leeway might be the better word. I'll give the same grace or leeway that I give Drake, because the thing is, when you're super successful and you're at the top of whatever it is that you're doing, it's gonna come with hate, but it's also gonna come with people expecting things, and it's gonna come with beef. And one of the things that has been a common occurrence is that Drake, over the course of his career, has always had issues with somebody, whether it was initiated by him or initiated by other people.
And I judge that, which makes me kind of hypocritical. Right. I judge that, but I'm also finding grace for Nicki.
Right. So, in my opinion, Drake has all these issues because of people not liking his success, right? Yeah. Like, things like that.
Which I agree. Like, I feel like you gave me that perspective, and that made me agree with that.
Right. Like, with Kanye kind of initiating trying to blackball Drake just because, you know, Drake was becoming super successful, and, you know, people wanting features and things like that. But one thing that's common between both Nicki and Drake is that they always are on a song, you know, and you can make the argument that they're doing it for their own benefit, but at the same time, you know, that you are still giving somebody a look and putting a lot of money in their pockets. Yeah. But Drake and Nicki have always been known to work with other artists. Like Drake is always the one to hop on an artist that this might be their first song that got hot. Mm-hmm. And Nicki, you know, same thing, giving looks to people because, you know, a Nicki feature is going to get you a lot of fans and support for no reason, right? Like she gave, what was his name? God, what was his name?
What song was it?
It like came out when I was still doing like reaction videos. Saba Baby, I think was she gave him a feature.
She did a lot of features when you look back.
Right.
And vice versa, because she got that done for her. Like Kanye pinning her on a song before her even first debut album, I think. Like that's a big deal.
Right.
So she's returning the favor.
So in my opinion, I think that I don't agree with like the, you know, like if you initiate a beef with me because of my success level or whatever, then that's on you. But what's common between them is that they do give people these looks. So it's not like they're beefing with randoms for no reason, and they're not beefing with successful people for no reason. So I will give, Nicki some grace with that.
Cause you have agreed like that a lot of Drake's beef was rooted in jealousy
From other people,
even Kanye, and Kanye was, you could say, is a better rapper and more of a legend than Drake, and even he dealt with that with somebody more successful than him.
Right.
Which Nicki's point is, she felt like she dealt with that from OGs like Lil Kim.
Right. So when things like this happen, before I was in that same thing. I was giving Drake grace, but I had to sit and think about what potentially Nicki could be going through, and seeing this situation, it kind of points to that, where it's the expectation of, I need that feature. It's the same thing that people do to Jay-Z. It's like your crowning achievement, or like the thing that everybody wants to strive for as a rapper, is getting that Jay-Z feature. Yeah. So like people want,
like in your career, you need like, this Nicki feature will be big for me. Like, this is huge. Her fans will like me. Like,
right. And then you see somebody like Pusha T get multiple. I think Pusha T has gotten multiple Jay-Z features, or like at least Drake's got multiple features, and obviously Kanye's gotten multiple Drake features. I mean, what am I saying? Pusha T has gotten multiple. You see these different rappers, they get multiple features, but then when you ask, it's like, nah.
Yeah.
So I understand people feeling the type of way, but I think that this has now been like a sort of common occurrence. But
and
also,
I think the thing is too, that it's just like, it's like you can't be like, I like you, like you're my inspiration, but then like you're just almost like begging, because it's like, where's where's the like genuineness? Like, I understand, like you want to work with me, like, and like and it's a mutual benefit for both of us potentially, but it's like, where's like the real love, and like And
that's the thing with me, is that there's artists that I want to work with, not even necessarily because of the money thing, right? Like I would, love to work with Kanye on music because he's the inspiration for a portion of what I do production wise. Like I study his music, different elements of his music that he brought in. Like there's certain beats I'll make even now where like the African drums that he used on 808s and Heartbreaks, I'll incorporate in my music, or like certain synths or basses, whatever, I'll incorporate in my music. So me, I'm more interested in how would it sound if both of us were in a room. Whereas there's other rappers I want to work with where it's like, this rapper's hot, let me send him a beat because it might be out of here and I'll make some money. So I treat people differently. Unfortunately, with Nicki, it seems like everybody views her as a bag, as opposed to, I want to hear how me and Nicki trade verses. They really just want to hear Nicki on my song because it's going to make me popping.
Yeah.
Now, as the artist, that's going to make you feel some type of way because everybody's looking at you like a meal ticket.
Yeah, and it's like, dang, like you just want genuine
and
support and love.
Do you really like my shit then the way you say you do? Because if you liked me, then that would be your, that would be what you're saying to me. You would be like, I can really hear you on this, as opposed to like, I want you on this because now I'm going to get hot and people are going to be listening to my music.
Yeah.
And I view those things completely different. Like I don't want to work with Kanye for any other reason, as opposed like any other reason except for the creativity aspect. Or like Jay-Z for the creativity aspect. I want to be in those rooms. Yeah. Let's work on this. I want to work with Travis.
Like seeing what they could do for like how they could create something so like crazy from, some of your contribution.
Right. And nothing ever has to do with music, do with money with me, because I've been making beats for years and have very seldom and very rarely actually put my beats up for sale or put them on YouTube for anybody else to consume. I mostly do this shit for myself because I want to hear what I want to listen to. So I do it for myself. So I do it for the love of the game, as they would say. Whereas other people do it for the love of the money, and they want that status of the Nicki feature, and they want the money and the claim that's going to come with it, because that stamps you.
Yeah.
So I understand.
And to Nicki's point too, she said that she didn't get featured for some of her idols, and she's fine with that.
Yeah, and you should.
It didn't stop her from loving them, and I was like, but she feels like a lot of these rappers, when they don't get that feature, they start switching up.
Entitled.
And that's what I feel like is happening with this Latto situation.
And especially when you haven't even accomplished much.
Yeah, like Latto just really start popping off. Like, and for me, I really don't get it, because I don't think she's that good, in my opinion. Like, I don't listen to her enough to really rank it. But I mean, I tried listening to her album that sold 20K that Nicki came out. It was very mid.
When did that come out? Because I might have listened
Not
to that
that long ago. Like maybe I think this year.
I want to think, because one thing I will say about her music is that it's like, how would I explain it? this might be some real nerd like technical analysis, but the one thing I like about Key Glock is that his production and mastering and the way it sounds sonically is so crisp and beautiful. I think that Latto's is the same. Like it sounds like expensive.
Yeah.
In terms of the content, it's just not for me, so I can't judge it.
I just don't like for me from the jump where her name threw me off from her. It's just like just the name, like you know, that's like being a black rapper and your name being nigger. Like no, sorry, I'm not making my rap name a derogatory name for mixed people. Like no thanks. So her name threw me off from the jump. And then her music just was never for me. Like I never liked the music, so.
No.
But yeah.
Get into the beef.
The beef started because and that's the thing. Apparently, like, you know, Nicki just got the Video Vanguard MTV Awards. Latto was there gassing her up on the stage when they asked her in the pre-show, like, yes, Nicki, I can't wait. I never seen her in person before. It's my first time seeing her in person. Which is so crazy, right? Like I feel like a lot of celebrities actually don't see each other in person.
Does Nicki live in California?
Yeah, I think so.
Damn.
But that was her first time seeing her in person, which was crazy. And this footage of her rapping along to when she was up there. So you was fangirling. But then she came, you know, when all the beef happened, said that she thinks Nicki was subtweeting her since March. So if somebody's subtweeting you since March, you going to be fangirling? Anyway. But then, yeah. So that was end of August, you know. So that was only like a month and a half ago. And then you have Nicki's tweets. That was like happening in September, where Latto thought they were subtweets. And usually it's the barbs, it's the fan bases that start drama, like lots of times. So Nicki would tweet something, and then the barbs will go underneath the tweet and say, and at Latto. And I mean, we talked about this the other day, like celebrities be seeing tweets. When you at them and stuff, they be seeing it sometimes. They scroll through and probably look. You know, they seeing stuff. And if a lot of people are adding you, barbs are adding you, and you seeing that you're attached to a Nicki tweet, you're going to go look. So I guess like she just felt like all these subtweets are happening. So she actually confronted Nicki in the DMs. And, you know, you could see in the DMs that Nicki posted that they were having conversations prior to that about the features. And Nicki was just declining them. Like, you know, when it makes sense, it'll make sense. Like, you know, I love you. Like, and she even reached out to her first. Like, you know, hey, like, you know, let me know if you're working on an album. Like, you know, I'm working on mine. Stuff like that. You know, like, you could tell she was being genuine. So then the conversation picked up again in the DMs when Latto, I guess, confronted her. Like, hey, yeah, like, what's going on? Like what are these subtweets? Like, you know. And then Nicki was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you could call me, though. Like, you know, I don't do this back and forth. So, but then Latto, during this beef, released a phone call. Like, they were just, like, kind of arguing. And Nicki not really understanding what she was saying. It was just, like, you know, I don't know. Like, you had to listen to the call yourself to be a judge of it. But it just was basically, like, Nicki telling her how, like, she should be acting, basically. And, like, saying, you know, you'll learn. Like, you're new in the industry. Like, you shouldn't say certain things, stuff like that. And then Latto would just be like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. Like, you know, this stupid stuff. But so then the beef started because submissions for Grammys just came out. Not nominations, but just like the submissions. And Nicki submitted her song, Super Freaky Girl. And instead of it being submitted into the best rap category, it got pushed to best pop. So Nicki was just like saying like, okay, fine, like, I don't care about being moved to the pop category, right? But if I'm gonna be moved, then so should Big Energy be moved. Like it's sonically the same. It was actually produced by the same producer. Sonically the same type of song, like a poppy song, you know, like so sonically it's similar. And it's like she's like, well, shouldn't she be moved too? Like if I'm gonna be moved, that's all she said. Like I think that's fair to use as an example. Nobody really spoke out, which is I hate that. Like you know, I feel like that's like such a hypocritical thing when nobody speaks out. So nobody really spoke out. And then I guess Latto made a. That's why I see Latto brought it to the internet first. She made a tweet along the lines of, because you know she just had the American Music Award nomination that came out, and I don't know if you saw the drama where Kodak was talking smack. Cause I think she won like best song, like Big Energy beat like Super Gremlin for something, and then I think all the nominations. So Kodak been having an issue with her ever since she. Remember those times she alluded to like he tried to mess with her, and like he was holding her music back because like for her album. So they've been had beef ever since then, even though it could be true, but, you know, she kind of tainted his name if it's not true. And so he, you know, has been calling her names, like calling her cappuccino, and saying all these, like, kind of crazy stuff about her. And so with that, you know, with that being said, that's what Latto made that tweet, because she said, I feel like anytime with all these awards lately, all these nominations, like, it's always something, which I could get that. Like, it's like, dang, every time something's good happening, yeah, all these people saying this stuff. But the crazy thing about that is barbs were like, what do you mean all these nominations? Like, this is not nominations. This is just submission. So it's like behind the scenes, do you already know that you're going to be nominated, or are you just stupid? Are you just slow? Because these are just submissions. There's not actual nominations yet. Mm-hmm. So she brought it to the internet, you know? Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jesus Christ. Your team. But,
keep going.
Sorry. But yeah, so she brought it to the internet. And then so Nicki just replied back like, or I think she just made a tweet like, this Karen is like, this is what she texted me behind the scenes while all this was happening. Like, you know, it was her saying, Latto saying, I agree with you with what you're saying, but I can't support you publicly because we ended on a bad note on their phone call that they had.
Which I don't think is crazy.
Yeah. But it's like, why are you on Twitter then? Like, if we're trying to handle it behind the scenes, why are you on Twitter now saying, oh, every time I have a nomination, it's always some drama?
So
they were having a conversation behind the scenes already.
Right. And then
Latto came to Twitter saying every time these nominations or award shows happen, there's always somebody trying to steal the thunder or whatever. Something along those lines.
Yeah, what was the time? So Nicki, so they were having a conversation before Nicki.
Like when they had the phone call conversation, that was back in early September.
Yeah.
Because that's when she confronted her about the subtweets.
Yeah.
So they haven't talked, like they had the phone call like right after that, after she confronted her about the subtweets, and you could hear like Latto posted this, which is crazy, like he was recording her, but she posted the call, and Nicki was like, I gotta go, like whatever, and all you hear is doop doop doop. So that's how you know, like, come on, you plotting, right? Because you recording. That's how you know, like, you plotting, you know? But so all you heard was doop doop doop, and I guess they never talked since then, you know? Like they never were able to have a conversation. So that's where it kind of ended. Like the phone call just shut off, and then they haven't talked since then. So that's when this stuff happened. But I guess Nicki's bringing up Latto. Latto was like, dang, like we just hung up on me like two weeks ago, and we haven't talked. But now you're bringing me up. Mm-hmm. So I think they were talking behind the scenes, and Latto said to Nicki like, well, we ended on a bad note. That's what I agree with you, but I can't. That's why I'm not publicly defending you because like I don't feel right doing that because we're not even on a good page. But then it's like, instead of having that conversation behind the scenes, and Latto then went to tweet all these every time I have these nominations and stuff, people, it's always something. Mm-hmm. So you brought it publicly. So that's when Nicki was like, this Karen is just, calling her a Karen, which people were mad about for some reason because it's like, oh, you're taking away from her blackness. Like, no, a Karen can be any color. You don't have to be white to be a Karen.
I disagree,
but yeah, so that's how it started. Nicki made that tweet and posted the screenshot saying like, look, she said she agreed with me, but she's too scared to speak out publicly. Mm-hmm. So they just went back and forth. Like people might know already. Like I don't know, we really have to go down to every single thing, but it was like just her saying like, you were subtweeting me for months. Like, why would I support you? And like Nicki's like, I wasn't even subtweeting you. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this was about this TikToker, and this was about this person. Like, and you the one taking it person, like a weirdo, And then Nicki made the claims like, you see what happens? Like, they get denied these features, and now they switch up. And then same thing with NLE Choppa. NLE Choppa decided to make tweets during all this, and then try to hide his hand. I hate that, right? Like, saying when I become a OG in the game, like I'm not gonna be like this with turn my back on the up and coming. First of all, you're not gonna become an OG. Your music's not good enough for you to become an OG. Like, relax. But it's like, then when people calling you out on it, I wasn't even talking about them. It's like, yeah, then who are you talking about? Like, you're just having this conversation now of all times when this big fight is happening. I hate that. Like, but, so yeah, so then Nicki had to come for him, like, and NLE Choppa, look, like your team, which is like, do you see the pattern here? Like, no, that's what we're talking about with hating on the people, and now you switch up and you don't get that feature. So she's like, see the pattern here? And NLE Choppa wanted a feature that I denied, and now he's saying stuff about me publicly.
And I know for 100% as an artist that like you see Coi Leray get the feature. Mm-hmm. I know 100% as an artist that was trying to get a feature, you're gonna look at the song that you sent them that they didn't accept versus the song that they actually ended up getting on, and you're gonna be tight. Yeah,
because you see she got on Bia's song too. And the thing with Bia's song, I think Nicki actually reached out to her, which shows like, look, Bia wasn't begging. And Nicki heard it and was like, ooh, like, let me go in the remix. She asked her.
And also, nobody needs a Nicki feature. I mean, you may want it. You can want whatever you want. Just in the same way that
Nicki didn't need it.
You could be a successful rapper, male rapper, and not get a Jay-Z feature. That's not like that might be what you want, but that's not like that's not your status. That's not going to solidify you like your status.
Yeah, Nicki became a legend though without a Little Kim feature, right? As far as I know, without a Lauryn Hill feature.
It does solidify you in a way, but like it's not necessary. So if it's not going to happen, that doesn't make you worse. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
it does show a certain level of something, if they do end up getting on the song, but you don't need that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's for me, it's dramatic almost, right? It's like all this just drama, just on, based off getting this a feature. And that seemed like the common denominator. That's why Nicki was like, do you see the pattern here? Like, you see the pattern. Every time I deny a feature, they find something. And even she has issues with Coil Ray, like in Meg. People that she did get features with, but then that's why people might think, oh, it might be a Nicki problem then. Because why she had problems with other people, So I don't know. It's hard because it's like, dang. But yeah, so they went back and forth, and the main thing that people were mad about was, Latto. First of all, you calling her, like, she called Nicki a 40-year-old bully. And then she called her super freaky grandma. And it's like the age shaming thing for me is weird. Like, you could say, yeah, at a certain age, you shouldn't really be on the internet fighting with people, whatever. But age shaming to me, like calling someone a grandma and like bringing up their age, for me, it's kind of like aging is inevitable. So for me, age shaming is weird because it's like you will hope you would get to 40.
The only thing about that I will agree with is, in my opinion, I don't think that the content that Nicki makes, it's not my preference to hear that at her age.
Yeah, super freaky.
But what I will say is that age didn't matter when you were asking for the feature.
Yeah, and that's what people
where
were
you're
saying.
Hypocritical.
Yeah, people were saying, oh, so you wanted her in the feature. And I think she was sending, a lot of her was actually sending Nicki explicit stuff too, because Nicki said in the DMs, like, oh, maybe send something less explicit. Like, so Nicki didn't even want to even be on some of her super explicit stuff. But now you're saying that she's a freaky grandma. Like, you're weird. And then in that same tweet, bring up Nicki's, husband and brother, who is a pedophile, predator, whatever. And it's like, so now you were activist for women, but you was begging for a feature. You worked with Dr. Luke, who produced her song, her biggest hit, who has accusations. You worked with Kodak, who has accusations. Like, Nicki went down on a list. Like, you're a hypocrite. And then somebody brought up this, alleged that her dad was in her dad's in his 60s. And her mom's like 30 something. So people did the math. Like, wait, if you were born 23 years ago, your mom was like 36 or something, 39. I mean, she had to be like 17, 16 when she gave birth to you. And if your dad's in your 60s now, I mean, he had to be in his 30s, 40s. So it's like, your mom's a victim, allegedly. Cause I don't know if that's true, but yeah. So it's like, that's like the biggest thing. People are like, the age shaming and the predator shaming when you were begging for a feature. That's where you just look crazy. If you didn't care for a feature and you just had beef with her, fine, say all that stuff. But you was begging and faking and saying how you just such a big fan and you've been a fan for years. You used to be in the line with the Barbie chain and the bangs. It's like you're doing all that fangirling, and then it's like one thing goes wrong and now you're so quick to like, kill her.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, do you think that Nicki's the problem for everybody to have a problem? Cardi B. Who do you have? You have Cardi B. You have Latto now. You have Meg Thee Stallion. You have Coil Ray. And Nicki, it seems like she had valid reasons for all that. But it's like, do you think it's her? Like, you have Lil' Kim. You have Mariah Carey.
I think to a certain extent, yeah.
I think my only thing with Nicki, I think her flaw might be she expects a lot of like fangirling.
Mm-hmm.
And like when Bia did the feature, like, oh, I love you, like you're such an idol. Like, another video that surfaced of Nicki meeting Lauryn Hill. She was like on her knees, like, oh my god, like, yeah, like, that's what everybody was joking, like, oh, this is what Nicki expects the new girls to do with her,
Mm-hmm.
Which I could agree. It's like, yeah, it's like, you might be
that's a lot.
Yeah. Oh. So, I think two things could be true. I think a lot of people are jealous and they probably overthink a lot of their interactions with Nicki and are paranoid, because based off her past beats or just based off who she is. So they're paranoid thinking she's subtweeting her when she's not. And I also think there's an element of jealousy there, and also I think there's an element of being mad that you're not getting what you want and thinking that she's hating and that's why she's not giving you the feature. But I also think there's an element of Nicki, like, kind of in competition with newer people and like kind of, maybe kind of sad that she's kind of getting older and eventually going to be knocked off that, best player. I mean,
yeah.
not, like best rapper stance. And I think there's also an element of her expecting a lot of like pandering and like idolizing from people.
Even though realistically, and what other older rappers, she's not really in a class with a lot of people, but with somebody like her status, or Kanye or Jay-Z or Nas or any of these really well-established rappers that have like made a career being at the top of the game that they're in, part of the thing that they should understand is that like you're kind of solidified in what you've done. Mm-hmm. So like even though somebody else might be hot at this particular moment, or somebody else has this hot song that went number one, that doesn't take away from anything that you've done. And realistically, think about this. None of these women rappers can sell anywhere remotely close to what Nicki Minaj has sold in her career. Like that's a fact. I don't think that any rapper is going to be able to. Just because
the game is different now.
The game is different. I don't think realistically. I mean, anything could happen, so I'm not going to say that, it's end all be all.
But the sale thing is
like nobody's come close except for Cardi, I would assume. Yeah. I don't know what Invasion of Privacy did, but I think it did a lot. She has diamond songs. Yeah. So I think it did a lot, but
I think part of Cardi's success is that she was like that one person that like came out of nowhere, because Nicki was running it for so long. And I think it was like a lot of people was like just hyped with having somebody new. So, like, I'm not saying that she's not, like, her success wasn't partially because of her own talent. But I think her being in love with hip-hop and her personality, and then just, like, the timing for her was just good.
Yeah. So, Nicki should understand that as well. Like, if that's what her thought is, like, you're not going to be hot forever. Yeah. But you see when she drops, and she sees the tweets and the support and everything else like that, like, that's always going to be there forever. Yeah. Even if the sales aren't what they used to be. Sales aren't what they used to be for anybody. Drake did 1 million first week on views, I think.
Yeah, and just the reason why it's not, because like when Drake dropped the album, that was literally like kind of the end of like, that was like really the beginning of this streaming era. Mm-hmm. Because like streaming really started like 2016, 2015. Yeah. That's when like the Apple Music stuff started popping up.
And now, people that grew up with those artists, we're at the point where we have money now. We can pay the whatever subscription fee for Apple Music or anything else. So we're gonna stream it now. Yeah. Back in the day, I don't know how anybody was getting their music, to be honest. But with this, to take it back to the beef specifically, I'm just the type of person I like to handle things. If there's an issue, it's just so much more like simple and wholesome. Yeah. And it can still be an issue. It doesn't mean that resolving it offline is going to make anything different, but at least like why, because to me Twitter or Instagram and everything is like when you post something, it's putting up a sign to the world. Like if I was to take a sign and go stand out on the highway and hold it up in front of everybody.
You want everybody to know.
Right. You want everybody to see these things.
Yeah.
So no matter who did it, I'm not saying Nicki or the other Latto was like, I'm not singling out anyone specifically, but if you put something on the internet in general, that's what that means. Yeah. So you want a big billboard with 1 million people, 20 million people that are going to see this thing. Yeah. Like, I don't like that. So to me, it's just a text. And if there's going to still maintain an issue, then let it be what it is. Yeah.
I mean, and like the one thing I we talked about this with the other episode, with the JT and Cardi thing. What annoys me about all this beef is like we just want the diss tracks. Like, if you're going to have this beef, let's pop out some diss tracks. Like, Latto get in the studio. It should have happened already. Like, that 48-hour window is gone. If you got real beef, then get in the studio. And, like, I don't know how severe the beef was between other artists that have diss tracks. Like, I don't know if you could even consider this as severe to make a diss track.
Definitely not.
So maybe that's why. But, like, if you have, like, Cardi and Nicki should have been and did a diss track at this point. Like, she had a big knot on her head. Like, it got to that point where physical stuff was happening. You were throwing shoes and was trying to beef at Fashion Week. Like that, it got to that point. The diss track should have been out. With JT and Cardi, maybe not yet. With Latto, Nicki, maybe not. If it was ongoing and more stuff happens, yeah. Where's the diss tracks? But in general, I feel like that's why a lot of people don't really take female rap seriously. Like these people are fighting on Twitter. Like, come on, get in a bar, in the studio. I just can't. But we'll see what happens. I mean, Latto on file with Nicki, so I mean. I think Nicki just be laughing to the bank at the end of the day. Like she's, your success and speaks for herself. Like you're where all these people wish they could be, and clearly they look up to you. So, but something that killed me too. Before we end this topic, I hate that whole sentiment. It's like people are like, oh, Latto was waiting for it, because I hate that whole. What she said, she's like moving on a whole rant. And she's like, it's a shame when your idols become rivals. It's like, Nicki is not competing with you. You're not her rival. Like, it's like, calm down, right? Humble yourself. It's like you couldn't wait to get that bar off when your idols become rivals. It's like you want to sound so like heavy, right? She is not your rival, right? She's not your rival. You guys are not competing at the same level at all. Like, it's like I hate when people just get cocky like that. Like, she couldn't wait to get that off, right? She had the phone calls recorded. Like, don't you think that's weird? Like, if you had no issues and wasn't had no ulterior motive, like whether you say I'm protecting myself, it's like you shouldn't even be calling somebody they feel you gotta protect yourself from.
Yeah.
This is weird.
I'm very simple, so.
People are weird. People are screaming like that. People who be waiting for beef, like they be having a whole folder of stuff waiting for beef. Like, you weird.
Yeah.
Crazies. But